Located in Australia's red centre, the Larapinta Trail follows the West MacDonnell Ranges that stretch westward from the town of Alice Springs. The 233-kilometre or 144-mile-long trail passes through some of the most rugged and remote parts of Australia, rewarding the travellers with stunning views of rocky gorges, open plains, and amazing rock formations. If you want to experience the rugged beauty and the extreme isolation of the Australian outback, this trail provides both. The trail is split into 12 sections and can be hiked in either direction. We chose to do it west to east, starting at Mt Sonder and ending in Alice Springs. Our plan was to do it over 14 days, camping at Redbank Gorge, Fink River, Ormiston Gorge, Waterfall, Serpentine Chalet, Serpentine Gorge, Rocky Gully, Hume Junction, Section 4-5 Junction, Standley Chasm, J Creek, Simpsons Gap, and Wallaby Gap. We had 3 food drops organised at Ormiston Gorge, Serpentine Gorge, and Standley Chasm. We arrived at Alice Springs on the 20th of May, which is almost the start of Australian winter. The drive to Redbank gave us a taste of what to expect on the hike. The landscape we passed was both beautiful and haunting in its desolation. The first stage is basically a climb up to Mt Sonder and then back to Redbank Gorge. Unfortunately, we didn't arrive at Redbank until 11 AM, and by the time we set up our camp, it was well past midday, so we didn't have that much time left before the sunset. Realizing we won't make it all the way to the top and back, we worked out a safe turnaround time that would have us back at the camp before sunset. As it turns out, we got about 2/3 of the way to the top and still got to experience the amazing views. Our original plan was to walk to Rocky Bar Gap, giving ourselves an easy first day with full packs. We ended up walking a further 15k to Fink River. The walk to Rocky Bar Gap was an easy stretch, fairly even and shady in spots. We crossed numerous rough, rocky riverbeds, all barren of water. We got to Rocky Bar Gap at around 11 AM, where we had our lunch break before pushing on to Fink River. The afternoon leg proved a lot harder, with a hot, steep climb up to the hilltop, which seemed to go on forever. A short section along the ridge was followed by a long descent back into the valley. last section offered a much flatter terrain, but it still wove up and down hills as we were chasing the sun. We made it into the camp at around 5:30 p.m. and quickly set up our tent, only to just as quickly relocate back into the shelter after our tent and one of our mattresses got punctured by these guys. Yeah, they're pretty sharp and they were everywhere and they were causing some damage. The Larapinta shelters are really good, and we ended up spending half of our nights sleeping on the platforms rather than in our tent. Each shelter has a water tank and a pit toilet. There are a couple of USB solar-powered charging ports, but we only found half of them working. There are also plenty of tent spots around each shelter and an information board about the previous and the next section. Fink River to Ormiston Gorge and our first food drop. On the map, today looked fairly easy, but after doing some big miles the day before, we both felt fatigued, which resulted in a slower than usual pace. The path was super rocky all the way. In fact, rocky is a good description of the whole Larapinta trail. When planning this trip, we read a few reviews that stated that Larapinta is brutal on feet and shoes. True, on both accounts. Arriving at Ormiston was a relief. We found a lovely camping spot, collected our food drop, had hot showers and washed our dirty clothes. We then spent considerable time picking spinifex out of our shoes and socks. So this is spinifex. It looks like grass, but it's more like a cactus. It's super sharp, stiff, and it has no give. Like, it does not give. It'll rip through your clothes without any problems. It is the nature's barbed wire, that's what it is. Ormiston Gorge is nestled among tall cliffs and feels magical. There's a small cafe which offers cold drinks and delicious focaccias. Nothing lifts your spirits like hot food and a cold drink. Ormiston Gorge to Waterfall Gorge. Given the big climb up to Mount Giles and an extra water carry, as our next stop was a wild camp in a dry creek bed, we got up super early and we were walking by sunrise. The first part of the trail was in a sandy riverbed, which soon opened up into a wide open plain, followed by a progressively steeper climb. Even though it was long and high, the switchbacks provided a comfortable climb until right towards the top, when it turned quite steep and rocky. Turning to look back a few times, we got a lovely view of Mt Sonder. It's incredible just how quickly we were moving away from it. As we reached the top of Mount Giles, a magnificent vista opened up all around us. At 1389 meters, this is the highest point of today. So today we're gonna go walking all the way up that ridge, all the way up to the top, and then all the way down on the other side. Walking along the ridge was hard on the feet, but nothing in comparison to the descent, which was steep and full of loose rocks.
It's like that, isn't it? Oh my God.
Waterfall Gorge to Serpentine Chalet. This section of the trail had us plodding up and down, following a valley between two mountains. The footing was rocky, of course, but not too harsh on the feet. Maybe we're just getting used to it. This stretch was visibly affected by the recent bushfires. There was no cover to speak of, and for the first time we felt really exposed to the sun. It also happened to be one of the hotter days of the trip. The Inner Langa Pass is a beautiful natural oasis nestled between two mountains. There are palm trees growing there, palm trees in the middle of the desert. It took us longer than expected to get through this section, navigating large boulders and rocks, trying our best not to twist our ankles or damage our knees. Still, we managed to get to the camp by the early afternoon. Serpentine Chalet to Serpentine Gorge, and our second foot drop. The day starts with a gentle 5-kilometer ascent up to the base of Counts Point. After a rather hot day, the day before, the weather cooled down and provided us with a cool breeze. The big climb up to Count's Point was long and steep, but the generous switchbacks made it easier. Only a few short sections required rock scrambling. Count's Point lookout is about 20 minutes off the main trail, but without our big packs we felt so light on our feet the extra climb was easy and definitely worth it. That view, just wow. The trail then follows the ridgeline for another 4 kilometers. The views from the top are just stunning. The food drop is a blue shipping container sitting inconspicuously among the shrubs, about 40 meters off the main trail and about 500 meters before the campsite. Serpentine Gorge to Ellery Creek north, and then pushing on to Rocky Gully. Our revised plan had us covering close to 28 kilometers, so we were up and walking by sunrise. The open plains with distant mountains quickly changed as the trail carved into the mountainside, forcing us to negotiate over some sizable boulders. Once we've cleared the gorge, the path flattened, and we made it to Ellery Creek by 11 a.m. After a nice break, we pushed on to Rocky Gully. The second half of the day seemed to drag on, as we were both tired, and carrying heavy packs filled with 5 days' worth of food certainly didn't help. Still, we made camp with plenty of time to spare.